Make no mistake, Putin is responsible for Navalny's death. Putin is responsible.
President Biden being very clear about who he thinks is responsible for the reported death of Alexei Navalny. A fierce critic of Russian President Vladimir Putin and leader of the opposition, Navalny was arrested countless times. He survived a poisoning. He suffered worsening conditions in that remote Arctic prison where officials say he felt unwell this morning after taking a walk. He lost consciousness and died. Just yesterday, the 47-year-old appeared healthy, even cracking jokes in his last court appearance. Joining us live is retired four-star Army General Barry McCaffrey, also an NBC military analyst. General, good evening to you.
Good to be with you, Joyce. Yeah.
Navalny, as you know, the latest in a long line of Putin critics to reportedly meet this mysterious death. Why does this matter? Why should we care about this?
Well, Navalny was a figure of enormous courage and principled fellow. He came of age during the Gorbachev-Yeltsin era when he saw the potential after the collapse of the 1991 Soviet Union, the potential for democracy, for legitimate capitalism. And under Putin's quarter of a century now, control over the country, it turned into a giant kleptocracy. So Navalny's trick was to focus the attention of the Russian people on the massive corruption and murderous nature of this regime. Putin has been killing his opponents, having them shot to death within sight of the Kremlin, poisoning them with radioactive polonium and abroad, throwing people out of windows, trying to kill Navalny himself with a Soviet-era nerve agent in his underwear. And as we know, he went to Germany, recovered, and then went back deliberately to again confront the Putin regime. So it's an important figure. His name will be down in Russian history. It's a great loss to Russia.
President Biden has warned of devastating consequences should this kind of thing happen, which, for many was not a surprise given Putin's history. How do you think the U.S. should respond, and what should be the global response?
Well, I think there's been already a massive, appropriate condemnation of the illegitimate nature of the Putin regime. It's not just the war in Ukraine, which has been devastating, isolating Russia, economic catastrophe for them, military disaster for them, but it's the ongoing suppression of all rights in Russia, turning into a sort of one-off nature of the Stalinist regimes, in which repression using Interior Ministry forces, the armed forces, is absolute. Putin will not survive, in my view, in the long run. He's clinging to power. He's been a disaster for the Russian people. And the death of Navalny is a catastrophe for him, and he and his regime probably don't know it. They deliberately had him killed, undoubtedly. The day before he died, he was obviously in good health, a young guy, a 47-year-old in good health. So a great tragedy and a stupid move on Putin's part.
What do you think this all means for Ukraine? As you know, in Washington, D.C., they still have not gotten that massive aid package through. Ukraine's still waiting desperately for aid. What do you think this means for Ukraine?
Well, it's hard for me to understand what's going on, primarily in the Republican-controlled House, where a $60 billion aid program for Ukraine to continue to protect themselves as a sovereign nation against a criminal invasion by Putin of their land. Why are the Republicans acting in this way? Trump's essentially saying he supports Kim Jong-un, President Xi, and Mr. Putin as a pal. What is he thinking of? These are un-American values he's espousing. So I'm not sure where all this is going. I hope we don't let Ukraine go under. 44 million people, half of them will flee into Western Europe. It would be a shameful aspect of U.S. foreign policy if that ever happens.
General Barry McCaffrey, so appreciate your time tonight and always your analysis. Thank you.
Good to be with you, Joyce.